All right, how you guys doing today? Today we actually got a little chill video, but first things first, make sure you like that video, hit the exit full screen, scroll a bit, like it, and then full screen it back up. Feel me? So recently I've been thinking to myself, dang, what's the importance of the resurrection in the gospel? I know it's to show that Jesus conquered death, but I kind of want to get it breaking down. So today we're going to do a little bit more reaction style video. Also, because I'm recording this at 2 in the morning and I don't really have time to read this next 60 verse thing, 60 verse chapter of First Corinthians. So I appreciate you guys rocking with me still. But yeah, we're just going to watch something on the gospel. And then I also want to show you another video that I just watched recently and how it explains the glory of God just a little bit. So I'm excited for both of these. Let's get into it. Alright, so I haven't watched this video, but first up we got Bodhi Bakum explaining the gospel because I also want to know what's the best way to share the gospel. Now, I'm not saying that, Bodhi Bakum's going to explain it the best way. I haven't seen anybody else explain it, nor have I even proof watched this. But I kind of want to get into the little territory because I've seen other people that, share the gospel outside public evangelism. They all have their own way of, you know, getting into it. It's, oh, where do you think we go when we die? How do you think this happens? What do you think of this? They all got their little sauce. So, but I need to get down to the concreteness of it because I know what I think I want mine to be. But you also, it's got to stay consistent with gospel message. Your easing could be different, varies from person to person, how you get onto the topic of the gospel, but the gospel don't change, right?
When people say, no, our problem is this, our problem is that, we say, no, 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 no. Our problem is that God created the world and God created man and he put man in the garden to keep the garden and he gave the man a command. And he held that man to perfect, perpetual obedience to that command. And he promised him life if he kept it and death if he didn't. And he didn't keep it. He ate. And because he ate, because of that one man, sin entered the world and death through sin. And everyone born from that man through ordinary generation inherited that man's sin nature. And because of that sin nature, sins proceed from it. And our world is broken because of that sin. And we stand guilty before a holy and righteous God. And we know that he's holy and we know that he's righteous and we crave justice. But the problem is that if God gives us justice, we all die. And so that God, in his goodness and in his mercy, sent forth his son, who was not born of ordinary generation, but was born of a virgin. Yes, the virgin birth matters. Why? Because if he's born of ordinary generation, he's born in sin. But because he's not born of ordinary generation.
Okay, that's a key point right there. So if he's born of the virgin, he's not born in sin. Now, I don't know how that makes him exempt from sin, but we'll rewind and see what happens.
Virgin, yes, the virgin birth matters. Why? Because if he's born of ordinary generation, he's born in sin. But because he's not born of ordinary generation, he's not born in sin. He's clean of sin. His record is clean.
Okay, so because he's not born as the rest of humanity was born, he different. You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, the way that we're born into sin. So I guess because he was born different, he's not born into sin. And that was the purpose of the birth. Okay.
And he keeps his record clean. And he obeys God's law. And because he's fully God and fully man, he obeys the law of God on our behalf in his active obedience. And then in his passive obedience, God made him who knew no sin to be sin for us. All we like sheep had gone astray. Each of us had turned to his own way, but God laid upon him the iniquity of us all. And Christ died for sin once for all, the just for the unjust. And God imputes our sinfulness to him. And he nails our sinfulness to the tree. And Christ dies and raises again on the third day for our justification. And there's another imputation. The righteousness of Christ is actually imputed to us so that God can be both just and the justifier of the one who places faith in Jesus Christ, so that all those who come to Christ may enter in. so that all those who place faith in Christ might be saved, but not only saved, but sanctified, because he's the firstborn of many brethren.
I wonder if it matters about the faith part. We're choosing God. Now, obviously, we can't necessarily choose God enough to be fully righteous on our own accord because of our sinful nature, but we're showing that, it you can argue that it wasn't our fault. I'm not sure if this is a true or false argument, but in my mind right now, you can argue that it's not our fault that we have this, original sin. So you get baptized to take away the original sin and show your faith. You're choosing God. Despite what your sinful nature may do, you're choosing God. And that's why you're allowed in by the faith aspect. And I forgot where I was going with the rest of that, or if that was the rest of that, what I was trying to say. But you're choosing God, which is why it works. You don't have to be fully righteous, but you're choosing God regardless of the sinful nature you were born into. That sounds like all I wanted to say. So you can tell me in the comments if I'm right or wrong about that, or if you have a take about that. But I think it's because you're choosing God that it works. You're saying, I don't want the sinful nature. I don't want the sinful nature. I want you, but I have the sinful nature, but I want you.
We're justified and we're adopted into the family of God. And we're sanctified. And as his children, we begin to bear the family resemblance. And we're further sanctified throughout this life by the very same gospel that saves us. Until one day when it's all said and done.
I like what he just said. We bear the family resemblance because Jesus said that we're slaves, but somebody in the family, the son of somebody in the family, the father and the son, they're in the family, we're the slaves to sin. We're working under, but somebody in the family has the right to free a slave. And then Jesus accepted us into the family, so we bear the family resemblance. So before that, I'm saying, we're treated as slaves. Slaves do what slaves do, and the family does what the family does, But when we're taken out of slavery and put with the family, we start doing the things the family does, i.e., we stop sinning as much because we got the Holy Spirit in us, convicting us.
We're not just saved from the penalty of sin. We're not just saved from the power of sin, but one day we're glorified and saved from the very presence of sin. That's the gospel that we preach. That's the gospel that we need. And that's the gospel that's more than enough.
Bro he didn't even say send a prayer or nothing. He just said, that's gospel we need. I'm out, hopping off this stage. Okay, so now that I'm looking into this, it's getting a bit crazy, but I was just on Twitter and I saw that Terrence Howard, um, explained the periodic table a bit differently based on the tones of elements in a way that I cannot begin to explain. And I thought he mentioned something along the lines of, if you divide by two everything, then all the elements come into one and something in that way. And I was thinking, oh, he's showing some of God's design that humanity doesn't really see. You know what I'm saying? So I thought, this sounds kind of cool. But now that I'm looking at this, but in the original, when I seen it, they were saying, oh, he's either having a schizophrenic breakdown or he's the biggest genius I've ever seen. And I'm thinking, why are we so quick to call things, mentally ill when they go against our preconceived notions of thinking? When he's explaining this scientific process, which seems as if it goes together perfectly, why are we classifying it as a mental breakdown when it could just be God's design? But now that I'm looking here, everybody's saying it's a mental breakdown, which kind of goes against the point I was just trying to make. Um, but I'm also seeing it's bigger than just the 3-minute clip I saw. It's an 8-minute clip, 46-minute clip, based off the 3-hour Joe Rogan Experience episode. He says it on The View first, the best kept secret, hidden knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I might actually have to research this. Yeah, I don't know if he does this in the name of God, but basically, I just wanted to show you guys this because I thought it explained God's design a little bit. I actually have to research this, man.
Do you guys know about loops in math? I want y'all to take out your phone for a minute then. Put it on the calculator. Now I want you to put in 2 and square root it. You'll get 1.414, right? Now I want you guys to do me a favor. Cube it, x to the 3. It'll see 2.828, 4271, 2174, 6190. I want you guys to do me a favor. Divide it by 2. Get that number? Cube it again, and I want you to do that until the end of your lives. And that number will still come up with 2.828, 4271, 2174, 6190. Any other number above 2 that you put in and you cube and divide by 2, by the sixth operation, it has moved into an exponential number that you can't even imagine. Any number below 2 that you do that same operation with, it will go into an exponentially small matter and number. This is what we call a loop. It doesn't make sense, and it does not make math make sense.
I don't know what bro was cooking. Somebody said that this happens when you do it with the same starting number, so we gonna do it. We'll try this. Okay. Square. So the race key. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Looks like that guy was right. Alright, that's cool. But yeah, I don't know what Terrence be yapping about, but I saw it and I just thought it was interesting. Neither of these two videos.
As you reach into the next octave, the carbon octave, and they call that a bisexual tone.
All right, I'm going to play something for you that dozens of you sent to me. There was a very interesting, in some sense, episode of the Joe Rogan program the other.
You know what? I don't want to watch a reaction video about it. Basically, Terrence Howard is, but they called it a mental crash, bro. I don't think he was having a mental breakdown. I just think he was trying to explain something to himself. Not to himself, but to Joe Rogan, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm gonna figure out more. I'm gonna figure out more. He's trying to explain the processes of God, like they don't make sense to us. Like he was saying with the loops, it didn't make sense to humans, and it didn't make math make sense because we can't understand it all. You know what I'm saying? And he said the hydrogen bonds below that were too dense to understand, and he was right. In a video that I saw, he said that, and he's right. We can't understand quarks, which is a part of my paper, which I finished, which I need to make a video about my paper. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. All right, that's gonna be the end of the video. Hope you guys have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.